Welcome to Gigapulse. This is a channel where we break down custom PC builds, performance tuning, and everything gaming. Today we're putting together an awesome mid-range gaming PC that's going to crush 1440p gaming and handle content creation without breaking the bank. This build is all about price and performance. I wanted something that's future ready, clean looking, and powerful enough to run the latest AAA titles while also keeping it budget friendly for anyone looking to get into PC gaming or upgrading from an older rig. Let's get into the parts. We're starting with the ASRock AMD Radeon RX 9060 XT Challenger. 16 gigs of VRAM, overclocked out of the box, and ready for 1440p high refresh rate gaming. This is the powerhouse of the build. Pairing it, AMD's Ryzen 5 7600X, 6 cores, 12 threads, running on the latest AM5 platform. Perfect for gaming and capable of light content creation. This is all going to sit inside Gigabyte's B650 Gaming X AX V2. Solid VRMs, built-in Wi-Fi 6, and plenty of room for upgrades. Keeping it cool, I went with the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Spectrum V3, one of the most iconic air coolers out there, updated with ARGB to match modern builds. For speed, we're going to go with Samsung's 990 EVO Plus, 1TB NVMe SSD, crazy fast boot times and load times. On the RAM, we're going to be using 2 sticks of 16GB G-Skill DDR5 at 600MHz CL32, plenty of bandwidth for gaming and multitasking. Powering it all is Corsair's CX650N, 650 watts semi-modular, 80 plus bronze certified, more than enough juice for this setup. And finally, it all comes together with NZXT H5 Flow mid-tower, sleek design, airflow focus, and perfect for showing off the hardware inside. So, that's the parts. Balanced build with power where it matters, solid cooling, and room to expand in the future. Stick around as we put it together step by step, and then we'll run some benchmarks to see what this beast can really do. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Gigapulse, let's get building.
Okay, I'm working on the anti-static mat to keep components safe. First up, the CPU. Taking the Ryzen 5 7600X out of the box, and we're going to get a close look at the socket. Here's the AM5 socket. See the tiny triangle on the motherboard? Match it with the gold triangle on the CPU. That's your alignment guide. No force required. I'm going to gently lower the CPU straight into the socket, no rocking, then close the retention arm until it clicks. The CPU is locked in and level. Next, I'm going to remove the stock retention bracket screws to prep for my cooler. Keep the AM5 back plate in place. Most coolers reuse it. For thermal paste, I lay down a small X on the CPU, then use a spreader to make a thin, even layer. The goal is full coverage, thin, no air gaps, no overflow. So just use that little tool, spread it thin, take your time, no rush. The name of the game is full coverage. Okay, next we want to set the mounting brackets as directed for AM5. Line up the cooler and tighten the screws in an even diagonal pattern. Snug, do not over tighten. Again, you want to make sure you're taking your time, doing everything right. The last thing you want to do is put everything together and have an issue with your system where you have to take everything apart. Now for the fan. Airflow should move through the fins towards the rear exhaust once it's in the case. I clip the fan to the heatsink and plug it into the CPU fan header. Finally, we move on to the memory. For dual channel on this board, the slots are going to be A2 and B2. You need to open up the latches, align the notch, press until both sides click, and repeat for the second stick. Okay, before we case this up, a quick tip on storage. This board has 3 NVMe slots, but for the fastest OS performance, you want the CPU connected slot right above the main PCIe by 16 slot, which is where the GPU goes. Okay, now we're pulling the tempered glass and the rear panel off the NZXT case, so we've got room to work. With the case laid flat, I drop the motherboard onto the standoffs, making sure the rear I/O lines up clean. Then I secure the screws just snug, do not over tighten. You want to make sure you get all the screws on the motherboard to secure it to your case. There are quite a few. Let's now stand the case up and slide the power supply in. Slides right in. 4 screws lock it in so it won't move while I cable manage. Now we're going to feed the PSU cables through the back with the final routing in mind. Most cables are labeled CPU, PCIe, SATA. That makes it easy to send each one to the right header. Up front, I connect the front panel leads, HD audio, USB 3.0, and USB-C. Then the case fans into SYS fan. Keep your CPU fan header for the cooler and use any fan hub if your case includes one. Now what we've all been waiting for, time for the GPU. Before the card goes in, I'm going to pull the protective plugs off the GPU display port and HDMI. You can wait till after it's installed, but I did it ahead of time. For this GPU, we need to remove the 2 slot covers next to the top PCI. There's also this little sliding door right here that I have to open up to fit the card in. Let's take this protective film off the GPU. And then when installing the GPU, you release the PCI latch. Which I already did. Line the card up with the top slot to get all 16 lanes. And press until it clicks. Once in place, secure it with the case screws. Next, you want to connect the GPU power. Use the required PCIe connectors for your model and tuck the slack through the grommets for a clean run. I bundle the real cables with Velcro. Keep airflow paths open and make sure nothing's rubbing on the fans or panels. And that's the hardware done. Storage, memory, PSU, cables, and GPU installed with clean management. Time to install Windows, chipset drivers, and GPU drivers. Okay, jumping into Call of Duty. I'm running MSI Afterburner with Riva Tuner for live stats, GPU temp and usage, CPU temp, RAM, current FPS, and 1% lows. Quick tip on the metrics, ignore the average FPS in my setup. That number often includes menu time or earlier sections and doesn't match what we're seeing right now. The 2 numbers that actually describe your experience are the live FPS and the 1% lows. The live FPS shows your moment-to-moment speed and the 1% lows show the worst frames, which is where stutter lives. In COD on extreme settings, the GPU is doing exactly what we want. 99% utilization at about 6 to 7 degrees Celsius. The CPU is around 83 degrees under load, which is normal for the 7600X and heavy shooters. Frames are hovering between 100 and 120 FPS with 1% lows touching about 48 FPS during the busiest effects. If I wanted perfectly flat frame times, I'd trim 1 or 2 heavy settings or cap the FPS slightly on a typical peak. Next up is F124. At ultra settings, we're going to be using the built-in benchmark. I still have my MSI Afterburner overlay in the top left. After the benchmark, the game will provide the results of the test. Racing games are all about consistency, and these results translate to smooth steering, input, and stable frame pacing at high refresh. Minimum 98 FPS, average 119 with max of 133. CPU temps were under 75 degrees Celsius. Finally, Cyberpunk 2077 on Ultra. As expected, the GPU is pegged at 99% utilization. This is a GPU-bound title by design. FPS hovers around 60, with 1% lows in the 55 to 60 range, which means steady playability at Ultra. Want more headroom? Flip on an upscaler or drop one or two heavy settings and you'll climb quickly without losing the look. The Ryzen 5 7600X delivers strong per-core speed and low latency, so it keeps the pipeline full for the RX 960 XT without creating a CPU bottleneck in fast shooters or esports. The 9060 XT brings the muscle for modern AAA at high-speed settings. Together, you get high refresh 1080p and 1440 performance in competitive games and cinematic visuals in demanding single-player titles, with good temps and, most importantly, tight 1% lows for smoothness. Quick health check on the hardware used in 3D Mark. Time Spy comes in at 14,862 overall with a graphics score of 16,259 and a CPU score of 9,996, right where a Ryzen 5 7600X and RX 9060 XT should land. Graphics test 1 averages 106.9 FPS, test 2 92.5 FPS. The monitoring graph shows the GPU pin nearly 100% load with stable clocks and temps in the mid-60s, while the CPU ramps during its sections with no signs of thermal throttling. Exactly what you want. GPU bound in the graphics test, stable frame times, and clean thermals. I also ran Solar Bay Extreme, a heavier RT style workload. Score of 10,707, about 74.9 FPS with a flat frame rate line, good stability under ray tracing pressure. Bottom line, benchmarks confirm no power thermal limits and performance lines up with the in-game numbers you just saw. BIOS updated, latest drivers installed and stress tested with 3D Mark. This rig is plug and play ready. If you want this exact build or one tuned to your budget, reach out. Again, this is Gigapulse Media, custom PCs, real benchmarks, zero fluff. Like, subscribe. I'll see you at the next build.